Welcome to the Beauty Blend podcast, where we delve deep into the world of beauty from the inside out. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Brittany.
And we're so excited because we have another guest again. It's our dad. Dr. Morse. We're happy to have you on again.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Well, we wanted to just hit deep again. We're in the spiritual talk. It's the holiday season. Yeah. So we thought we'd bring you back on here to do some more education about spirituality.
Okay. I heard part of your recording for the podcast you just did, so I didn't get a chance to hear all of it. So where'd you start, where'd you stop, and where you want to go from there?
It's a loaded question there, Doc.
We're like, thanks for listening. Well, basically, we kind of explained our gifts, a little bit about like what the different intuitive abilities are, kind of our strong points, and then like a couple tips on how, if like you were kind of interested in what we had to say, like
spirituality,
starting in it.
Maybe we can talk about some stuff too, like we kind of talked a little bit already in another episode where you started with all this.
Yeah, okay.
So why don't we talk maybe about some techniques you're trained in?
Yeah.
And how you got there?
Let me go back a little bit and talk a little bit about spirituality means different things to different people, right? So, and that's one thing I've learned when you talk about spirituality, what does that mean? I think the three of us, because the influence we've had on each other, it means something beyond religion, right? Religion is very important to people, and religion is it's a great asset to have people who are into that. But that's one definition of spirituality for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. What you guys have been talking about, and I think what you're hinting at, is something beyond the traditional church, right? It kind of goes the church and beyond kind of thing, especially some things you're talking about. In terms
and
of
I do
thinking.
agree spirituality has a different definition for everybody involved. Yeah. However, for me, I'd say spirituality, it still involves
religion.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Yeah. But yeah, for some people it does not. Some people, spirituality is their religion.
Right.
Yeah. And I do think it's important we preface that when we talk about it. But let's talk about what spirituality means to us.
Okay.
Here.
All right. Let me separate out just myself. So religion, in my opinion, is where we have God, universe, little energy source, whatever term we want to use that. And we have man. And religion, we have an authority that we help us define and explain what God means and how it relates to us on our human existence here. Whereas the greater picture spirituality may not involve that middle, maybe more of a direct connection you have with Source or God yourself. And I think that's where you kind of separate them out, or they overlap, so to speak. So I say the first book I read was when I was 12 years old. It was A Life After Life, which is a book about experiences of people who had near-death experiences and how they all had similar experiences despite not knowing each other and not having a relationship to each other, but their experiences and whatever their temporary death existence was very similar in their patterns and what they expressed when they came back. And I grew up in a very Catholic church, a Catholic religion, a very structured religion, and really at a certain point in my life, it served a great purpose for me. It really was fundamental to my faith. But even with that, I guess that book really helped to explain to me, to validate that there is life beyond death in our physical world. What I've come to believe over time is we're actually eternal beings, so to speak, and we're having physical existences on this planet to learn certain lessons, and that's what we're here to do. And that's kind of where I come with spirituality right now. Mm-hmm. Do you want me to delve further into that or move on to something else?
I feel like you go deep,
quick, so I don't want to get too deep and scare everybody away. I think lose them. That was a good. I think that was a good overarching. So let's talk about what you do that you feel is you practicing your spirituality, maybe, or what you practice, how you.
So, and as you guys alluded to, I grew up in a very medically oriented family. I went through medical school. I practiced emergency medicine for 25 years. I've been a physician for, I guess, do the math, about 35 years, I guess, since you count medical school and so forth. And it's a very structured field, and it's based on science and studies and things like that and outcomes, and it offers a great service to a lot of people in a time of need for certain reasons. As I've expanded myself and grown in certain areas, I got exposed to other methods of healing that I wasn't privy to, and I really didn't understand. I didn't believe in because they weren't part of how I was trained. And so as I was starting to expand myself as a personal growth opportunity, I got exposed to some of these alternative methods, and I didn't believe them at first, but I got to know people that experienced them. And then I had to experience myself. And once I experienced myself, then I had to learn how to integrate this into the healing world, healing arts, because my mission is to serve people, and the way I serve people is in healing them from disease and illness and those types of things. So I had to retrain my brain because you guys were talking about energetic healing, vibrational medicine, and that doesn't fit typical science in terms of anatomy and physiology. How can that work? And it's a whole different aspect, more of the Eastern medicine practice, if you want, so to speak. And so I had to retrain my whole thought process, belief system to even understand it. I saw it was working, but I had some type of comprehension of how it could even occur. And with that, then became a deeper belief in spirituality, I guess you so to speak, because in my opinion, to understand that, you have to understand there is a force greater than what we understand that is coordinating what's going on in the universe. Mm-hmm. And that we are tied to that, and it is through that we receive what we have in our existence, and our experiences in this world are kind of learning lessons that kind of lead us back to understanding we actually are tied to source, so to speak.
And source
would be God, universe, nature, the all. Mm-hmm. Yes, the all that is. All types of terms. Yeah.
A lot of different terms you can use for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very, very cool. Yeah. So what specific techniques do you like to practice or use when you're healing?
My process it's an evolution of my own method. I call it holistic quantum integration, but it's an amalgamation of several techniques you guys have been exposed to. BEST, the enriches process, TFT, which is thought field therapy, EFT, and Chi. Chi, absolutely Chi. Yeah. And what happens is once you start to expand, there are basic principles in all these processes. There's also, in my opinion, we all come from an existence where we grow up in this physical world, and we have certain foundational beliefs we base on how we're taught and how we're raised. And so each one of these programs have structure to them, but they may each in their own individuality, unknowing to themselves, have some self-imposed limitations to what they believe is a potential in their own individual process, so to speak, without a lot of detail.
Can you explain that a little better?
For example, I love BEST. BEST is where I got my foundation, and the gentleman, M.T. Morter Jr., who developed that, is fantastic. The third actually, amazing what he did. And the thought is you can only deal with one issue at a time, one thought at a time, one feeling at a time. But at the same time, your body has countless processes going on at that same moment it's doing without your conscious thought of it. Mm-hmm. So the fact that maybe you can deal with a lot more than one issue at a time, one thing at a time, if you expand the possibility that's feasible. And my process involves that the belief that you can do that. And so I get much deeper in a shorter period of time than something like that. That's just an example.
I'm going to pause and try to maybe summarize that a little differently. So what I think you're saying is there's all these different techniques out there. They have their certain protocols or certain ways that they feel they are working and they're healing. However,
and they all do work.
And they do work.
They do work.
And they feel like this is their better way to do it, and that's great. And they do all work. But you're saying it may not just be one size fits all. There's a different way to approach things. You can maybe approach it
kind
deeper.
Of funny. Me and you both have our own experience with that as well.
Absolutely.
Like I was talking in the last episode, like even though I'm certified in Reiki, I was already kind of doing my own modality of that. You had something similar where you're kind of combining different things.
Yes.
So
I think there's not one size fits all or one technique that is the best technique necessarily. It's maybe a combination of what you've learned from different things that you've put into your own
practice
to get deeper.
And just
that's what your holistic quantum integration. That's why it's integrating. You're integrating a lot of different techniques into one.
Yeah, like the two bases of I guess the foundation of what I've developed myself into, it comes out of BEST and the enriches process.
Yeah.
And so those have some similarities and some differences, and they're both great. And so what happens is you take those things in, and you as an individual start to become more open to things and receptive and intuitive and so forth, and things may come into my field of existence, and because of my energy and who I am spiritually and individually, some other things come into my play that work very well for me, but may not work for somebody else quite as well. Mm-hmm. But I see the results in what I do, so it works great for my modality and my clients. It's what I'm doing and who I'm serving, and so it's and it does deal at a quantum level. That's what it's all about, right? So
we should explain the quantum.
So let's
I kind of touched on it in the last episode.
Yeah, let's
Yeah, what's your definition of quantum?
Well, quantum kind of what quantum theory really does, it proves that there really is no separation between time and space. I mean, it just became published really that there can be 2 points infinitely distances apart that one reacts and the other reacts simultaneously at the same time.
Right, there's multiple timelines.
So
kind of like Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel has a lot of quantum. I love it.
It's a good visual. They start talking about how there's multiple different timelines. Doctor Strange.
Oh, I love Doctor Strange. He's got a lot of.
I just think it's a good way to put it in like a fun manner of how that the timeline quantum works.
And it itself is a whole field that take years to even fully understand or even understand at some level. But so there's no sense going real deep in it. But really, what it boils down to, it's like. There's an experiment done back in the 30s, and they took it was a visual how observation changes what something is, and you can watch a particle and you go through a dividing. If you want to see it as a wave, it'll go through as a wave. If you want to see it as a particle, you'll see it as a particle. So direct observation can influence the outcome of what's going on, and so what that really showed was your own input, really your thought, your visualization, your intent affects outcomes. That's really what that experiment showed, and so that comes down to the quantum, influences that you have upon outcomes because there is no separation, and you directly create your reality, so to speak, at least at some level, if not entirely, depending how deep you want to go. But I'll stop right there.
No, that's good. I feel like we can simplify that a little bit. You say things at such a deeper level. I want to make sure everyone's understanding. And it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, no.
I feel like I'm starting to get confused. So basically, it's kind of like what we hit on a little bit the last episode of how you're kind of the master of your own reality. I think that's what you're hitting on at a deeper level. It's your thoughts, your actions, you create your reality. So if you feel like you're in a phase of, oh, poor me, why is everything going this way? Take a step back, look at how you're approaching things, how your thoughts are approaching things, try to reframe it, and your outcome will change.
Right.
And you'll have a better outlook on things. Is that a better way of kind of putting it?
That's a great way to put it. You can go through feeling you're a victim of your life, but if you really want to accept the idea that you're totally responsible for your life, it can be a difficult pill to swallow, but if you accept that, then you also understand you have control to direct your life and create your life.
I think that gives a lot of power back to people.
It does once you accept it. Once you accept it and realize the empowerment that goes with that, then everything can change. You can be like a ship floating in the waves, or you can be the one of the ship that's got the rudder and the power engine. You're driving where you want to go.
Right.
And either way, you're going to end up somewhere. Either you control where you're going, or you're going to let something else put you there without really having much input on it.
You're going to say something. Go ahead.
I was someone who definitely lived in the victim mentality because I had a lot of crap happen. So when I saw people that were happy, I automatically thought, then they obviously haven't been through like what I've been through. And like that would make me so mad. I couldn't even stand to be around happy people, which is kind of funny to look at now. But I realized that like there is a part of like control, I guess, but I almost feel like we can kind of get carried away and like feeling like we have to control every aspect or whatever. But I will say when I started to take responsibility and looking at the bigger picture and why I went through those things and how that's going to help other people and like seeing the bigger picture, I was able to kind of pull myself out of that. And I also realized like just because those people are happy doesn't mean they haven't had a lot of things happen to them. And they just handled it better than me, really, is what it came down to. It's a good reminder, Yeah, and it's not like a competition of who's had worse and like whose life is better and who's
never been through anything. Yeah. You don't know.
Right, exactly. You don't know people's story.
I think that's a good point that you bring up about feeling like control. I agree. That can get dangerous of like you can't control your life to an extent. You can control your view of your life,
the perspective.
But having that control mindset, I think, can be dangerous for people who
especially in spirituality. Like I feel like it can kind of be an escape as well, just as much as other things can be escape.
And you'll just get frustrated because again, there's things in life I think you have to experience, and we're meant to experience them and learn from them.
Exactly.
So to feel like you want to 100% control your life could be
also interesting.
More of how you control your perspective of everything.
Yes. You're responsible for your life.
Yeah.
You can be the director of your life, so to speak. You, in your conscious self, in this 3D reality, can't really control what the outcomes are. The outcomes are going to come because of what you're meant to experience and what you're creating, but it's not what your ego wants it to be per se.
Right.
There was someone that comes to me shares right. There was I was telling some story how I won something to be to somebody. It had to do with it could have been a relationship. I have no idea. But at the time, this person said, "Be sure you write it in pencil because God's up there laughing." Right?
That is funny.
Because there's
Make
there's
a plan and
something
God laughs.
we want it to be a certain way because our ego self, we want to have this for whatever selfish. Well, this is a selfish reason.
It's a little selfish. Yeah.
But it's not maybe what our spirit self is meant to experience, right?
Right.
And so the more you want to be sure you have a certain outcome, probably the tougher your lesson's going to be, right? There's this thing called allowing, and allowing. I think we misinterpret that as being giving up. Right, the term surrender,
and
surrender, but surrender in the spiritual world means a lot. Means really, if you really believe that you're something more than just this physical existence right now, and if nothing else, if you're in the religious world, you feel that you do certainly have a soul that goes on beyond this, right? So there's something that exists beyond the physical life. If you really believe that understand that surrendering may be that you're actually surrendering to your higher self, your true self, the one who knows who and what you really are, what you're meant to experience and become.
I like to say God's will.
God's will is a great term for that. And that's when you're surrendering and allowing, then that's a powerful thing, right?
Yeah.
And if you think of the ego as like the great trickster, the one that's here to kind of keep you stuck in what's all going on right here, like and keep you from remembering what you really are, and that's where we get stuck. And that's where you get frustrated, right? When do you feel best? Is when you can feel best in the moment when you're feeling a physical satisfaction. Could be eating something, could be a sexual pleasure, could be drinking to achieve a certain point. And that's a certain sensation. That's a physical sensation that's rewarding in the moment. But then on the backside, that passes very quickly, right?
You're searching for the next.
Yeah, searching for the next physical sensation to make that. The drugs, for example. So, whereas when do you feel most content and most at peace? When it's something beyond that, just something you've accomplished, something that was a goal, right? Or you just have this moment where you've connected with something, right? You guys all get these spiritual hits, these moments, and you're just in the moment. You're just enjoying the people around you, right? And just the group energy, so to speak, or with the group experience. And those are the things where you're connecting with your inner self, your higher self, and with the all, which is of the one. And you're all interconnected. That's the surrender and the allowing that you're letting come in.
I recently had an experience with that. It was really cool. And I went to Colorado. I didn't really have anything planned. I just had my way to get there, a car, and place to stay, but nothing planned, nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And the way everything I just kept reminding myself, surrender, surrender, surrender. And the way everything just lined up so perfectly that whole trip, even getting into the Rocky Mountains was very difficult to do because apparently you need a reservation. I didn't even know that until the day before. Somehow that all worked out. It's just like another example, but I had to keep reminding myself when times where I was starting to get like, oh no.
Well, when you start to get
and then I was like, all right.
Yeah.
And I just said surrender, just let it, it'll fall into place. And that was really cool to watch kind of happen.
That's a good example. Another easy example to see how things manifest themselves.
Yeah.
When you just, I would like to let go, let God, kind of that comment. Yeah. It's good. That's a good example.
So, go ahead.
Mine's kind of a deep, because this is around the holidays. Do you have anything that you can say about Christ and like Christ consciousness that comes to mind?
Deep.
Oh, well.
It is his birthday.
It is his birthday.
That's how we celebrate his birthday anyway. But Christ consciousness is a real thing. Christ, in my opinion, and I'm going to maybe upset some people, but Buddha is also an equivalent of Christ consciousness in another religious process experience. And it really is, it's elevated consciousness. It's not something you can describe. It's something you experience when you achieve it. And really, what I believe what Christ's life was about was to demonstrate to mankind what we can be or meant to be and become. And he was demonstrating it to us in a physical existence that what reality is if you allow it to achieve that point. And I'll stop there. But that's what Christ consciousness is, in my opinion. It's when you become more connected with your elevated self, and you're doing that at the physical. You're still in a physical existence at some level. Christ showed Christ consciousness in the physical existence.
Mm-hmm.
Christ is still there. It's Christ. His consciousness is there. Christ consciousness can be described as just a broader term for the elevated consciousness that we all have when we accept and allow it to occur.
Do you think like our religion or any religions kind of help with that or no? Do you see any kind of like things that kind of help us get to the Christ consciousness? Especially during Christmas when we're celebrating?
I don't get real controversial.
I know. I'm just
curious. No.
Just from people that I know, a lot of people are probably going to church around this time. So I'm just curious if there's a way that they can maybe connect with that kind of energy.
In my opinion, celebrate Christ for what he represents.
Mm-hmm.
And what he represents to you at the higher level. That's fantastic. I have several things in my family room. A picture of Jesus right there, and I have a nice kitchen area, and there's a Jesus up there. I mean, he's very prominent in my. I communicate with him all the time, so he's very important to me. So, but I guess how I view Jesus and my relationship with him might be different than a lot of other people. So I probably should get too deep in the weeds, but I say celebrate. I would encourage you to celebrate Jesus and his birth and his life every day, like we do at Christmas. Is what I would say.
I love that.
That's very true. Yeah. That's good advice.
Yeah,
I like that.
I feel it.
Preach it. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. Anything else you want to add on that?
On Jesus?
Or anything else? Spirituality.
And spirituality. I mean, spirituality. I know you guys are just getting started in this, and I've been involved in it a long time, and I continue to learn more and understand more about it. So, I think any given time, I'm happy to come in and talk about things. I don't go deep down a rabbit hole. You guys just get started this and turn people off. But I just say if you open yourself up to being open to maybe understanding there might be more out there than what we've grown up to understand, you might be led to certain things that'll really. Let me give a quick example. You guys both mentioned asking is given.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm probably going to. I remember when I was reading that book, and I was in. You were cheerleading at a basketball game out of town. I was actually there before the game started, and I was reading this book in the bleachers. Mm-hmm. And I remember what exactly sentence I read. I read it, and just resonated, and tears came in my eye right there. Mm-hmm. And that's when I really connected with, I think, my soul, so to speak. And that's when this is what's for me. I was aligned with that, and that really opened the door to there's more than what I was.
Oh yeah.
What I understood at the time, but what my belief in religious spirituality was in the book. It was that kind of thing. And so that's when I realized I'd finally opened a door to what led me where I am now.
What did it say?
I can't remember what it was. It was in that moment in time.
You know what's funny? I actually had a very similar experience when, I was talking the last episode how you had me reading those or listening to those DVDs. And then they had like a conference or whatever. So you took me there. Yeah. And my very first, as soon as I got there and everything started, lights on, I was bawling hysterically. It was like I was supposed to.
Almost like you came back home.
Oh, yeah, literally. It felt
like
that.
That is what that feels like. That feeling of reconnecting. It's like I'm home. Well, I think because you've reconnected now with your soul.
That's a great way maybe to sum this up, is that my belief is, when I understand from learning, is we never really left. It's just we don't remember what we really are. Okay. So you say reconnect or remember. It's all the journey here is all to remember who we really are and how we're connected. And that's what this whole journey experience is about. We're experiencing separation. Experiencing separation is to waken us to realize what we never left, but we created because we wanted to know what it was like not to be.
But what do you mean by separation?
Separation is, they all are God. We're all
part of.
We're all an aspect of God, all connected. And in this brief instant, holy instant, or this brief moment of time, we decide to forget who we are. And
by coming to Earth.
Well. What happened in that instance is all created. This all was created to experience
physical experience here.
Physical experience, a whole kind of different level experiences. Remember, the experience was like to be separate from God. And if you realize how it's not as nice, but you come back to remember what to be God, part of God is. That's the whole journey. So remember.
Remembering your connectedness into each other.
Despite all this other stuff that's physical
stuff that we experience.
You guys were talking about a couple of books. Asking is Given is a great.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you have any other books.
Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh, a great series of books. Asking is Given. There's Gary Renard. The first book he had a series was Disappearance of the Universe, and those are really good books. There's some audiobooks I'm listening to right now that what's his name? I should have Paul Selig, Selig, and it's those are all they all resonate with me quite deeply in that order. Asking is Given, several books, The Conversation with God, and then those several books, and then the Gary Renard series of books. And now these things, to me, they've just kind of continued to take me on my path and expand to what I understand, believe.
I think those are some good things for people to get into if they're.
They're driven to it. If you're driven to do whatever you're called to do.
I feel like it kind of just happens as it's meant to happen. I
agree,
too.
Like to be unfolded.
It happens at different times for different people. Sometimes not at all because they're not meant to even experience. They're meant to just see what it's like completely without.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, everybody's got their own path.
Yeah,
there's
their own path.
There's own path. I mean, the Course in Miracles is course I've been taking. Yes,
Course in Miracles. Yeah. I forgot to mention that in the last one. I actually think that's what really opened me up too, my spiritual gifts.
And the Course in Miracles is cool because it's something you do every single day, and it's a good way to change your thought again and open your mind up more. And it's literally a 365 day.
Yeah.
New Year's coming up. Now it's a good time to start.
Great time to grab the book and start it because I think it's a good place.
Yeah, I'm doing it now for the 4th year.
Nice.
I always started on my birthday. The Yeshua Codes is another one I've just started in the past year, but I can go on and on.
Yeah,
but those
He's going to show us his whole collection.
Yeah.
No, I think that's good. Any other advice you have for anyone wanting to get started in this path? Reading and audiobooks seem to be a good.
Yeah, you know what?
To educate yourself.
It wouldn't be a bad idea. Well, in my day, you go into like a bookstore or something, and I would go in like the spiritual section or law of attraction and just scan over it and see what you're kind of drawn to. Just open up and just relax and see what you're kind of drawn to. Pick a book up, kind of flick through it a little bit. Or I guess nowadays, just go online and kind of read the preface or listen to a couple minutes of the audio and see if it's something resonates with you. If it doesn't, look for something else. If it does, listen a bit longer and just see where you go.
That's such a good
advice. Yeah.
point. I actually had experience with that when I went to Sedona. We went to this little shop and there was this book and I was just so drawn to it. I had no idea why. And the lady there, she's like, you obviously are meant to grab this because you're so drawn to it. Yeah. I got it, and it actually is what helped me learn how to activate my jewelry.
Well, there you go.
And I had no idea. At the time, I was just looking at it. I'm like, this is meant for me. I don't know why.
People on their phones all the time right now. You might have something pop up on your phone that when you know how it got there. If it seems something that why it got there, but something you might have an interest in, you might want to just kind of look a bit further what that was that popped up in your phone. Because it's interesting how electronics and things like that and certain things pop in your life. And there can be cues from the universe that maybe you might have looked in this direction a little bit.
Oh, I definitely.
And, just the more in tune you get, at least the more open you are, you'd be surprised the synchronicities and things that pop in there that it's maybe something tapping on you. I'm tapping on purpose on the table. That's trying to get your attention, and if you don't pay attention right on, then sometimes you get smacked a little bit harder, and sometimes you get kicked in the head. And if you listen to that little tap on the shoulder early on, you may avoid getting kicked in the head down the road.
Basically, what we're saying is be open to experiences. Yeah. Keep your mind open.
And not all AI is bad. I feel like a lot of times it's working to help you out.
Yeah, I think some things
that come up.
Yeah. So you're going to learn certain lessons where in the life where you want to or not.
Yeah.
And if you don't get a chance later to do it again. But so you can learn them on the subtle plane, or you can learn them on the bigger plane, or you can learn them on the
I'll never forget you telling me that with a ex-boyfriend of mine. You were like, you were getting pebbles and now you got a boulder because you weren't listening.
Preach on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay silent. No, I think that's been a really good explanation of the spirituality. I think it's a good place to wrap it up with that advice too. I think being open to just experiences and the things that pop into your world is huge. So
you want to have a good experience sometime. Just go to a town or something, go there for the day and just go open to just let it unfold in front of you. Go to a little festival or something, just call it an adventure day and just go in and just start meandering around, and you'll meet somebody, you'll talk to the bartender, to the waitress, you'll talk to somebody at the booth, and it's very interesting what kind of day you'll evolve into. Just
yeah,
it's a really neat experience.
Someone might say something to you that lights. You
never know. You never know. Okay. I think that was great. Right. Thank you so much for being on with us today and explaining all that.
Thanks for tolerating me.
Bye, beauties.
Bye, beauties.
Foxland Media. Think big.